thing that's different about this, usually we put our wadding or interfacing on the outer fabric. On this one, we have it on the lining. And actually, it's a really good idea because it makes the inside of the bag a lot more sturdy. It's not hard, it's fusible fleece on there, but it just gives it a really nice feel and body to the bag. And then it allows the pleats to just hang there really, really nicely. And we've got our box corners here. Now, I know some of you, Patricia included, Patricia W, liked a video that somebody else had, or no, Patricia put it up, somebody else said they'd seen it. And it's a really good idea when you're doing box corners. So although I didn't with this one, I did the normal way as in the instructions, but I'm going to do it if I remember, that is, if I remember. I'm going to do it in this special little way, which really makes it easy to get your bag corners, your boxed corners here, fitting together easily and nicely. So here's the bag. I am going to do it in the second colourway. So let's pop that out. The second colourway is going to be rust and this one. Now, it's a canvas fabric, so it does fray just a little bit, but we can nip that off. So it is going to be in a rust canvas and the floral. Okay. There we are. So what we're going to need, with the instructions, the PDF, which I will put into the group, you will have a template to cut out your handle shape. So this is Deckerville 1. It's the heavier weight one. Can you see? That's nice and solid and firm. So we have Deckerville 1, and you'll need to cut those out in Deckerville, or if you've got Deckerville Light, it will do the same thing. That's just a little bit lighter. This gives a really structured handle, which is nice and firm. So you could, if you wanted to, it will be softer, but you could put thermolam or fusible fleece. But this Deckerville does give a really lovely, it's just right for the job, suits the purpose of it to give us a nice structured handle. So one side, so only each handle will have one piece of your Deckerville. The other side, which I've done already, will have fusible fleece to give a little thickness to your handle and also give a little bit of softness as well. So you will have, or you will need 4 pieces of your canvas for your handle, whether it be the linen. So 2 pieces for each side. One will have the Deckerville 1 fused to it, and the other will have the fusible fleece fused to the back. So I've done that already, because I will just say, first of all, if you are using Deckerville Light or Deckerville 1, as this is the heavier weight one, when you, and I think I have put it in the instructions actually, when you fuse it to your canvas or your cotton fabric, when you fuse it, you should use a low setting, like a wool setting, and I even used a piece of greaseproof paper over it before I pressed it. And you don't want to iron, you want to press and hold the iron on an area for 6 seconds. Then you move your iron onto the next area for 6 seconds, and you keep doing that until it's completely covered. You then need to set aside this for 30 minutes at least for it to cool down, and that will give the fusion of the glue on the other side heats up. When it melts, it sticks to your fabric, but you need to let it cool down to give that perfect adhesion. Now, tell me why I know that, because when I was doing the part that I've done, I cracked on with it. And when you come to turn it through, it comes away from your fabric. However, this one I have left for 30 minutes, and we'll find it's a totally different kettle of fish. So that's your Deckerville. You will also need 2 pieces of fabric for the base part, which is going to have pleats in it, because as you can see, this is wider than the width of the handle. We are also having 2 pieces of lining fabric, as we have here, and these will be the same width plus a ½ an inch as our bag handle. And the lining fabric is the one to have the fusible fleece on the back. And it's I should do it more often. I know people do it already, but I think it's a really good thing to do it. You know, it's a little bit different, doesn't matter really, but I nearly always put the wadding or interfacing on the outer fabric, but on this occasion, I haven't, just for a change. And then you will also need, so where's that second? There we are. You will need 2 pairs of these bag handles. One has got the little legs, just like magnetic clasps do, and they will fit together around that hole. Now, how I made up this shape, I knew what shape I wanted, but what I did was put one of these pieces onto some paper and I drew that inner oval, and that is the shape that you need to cut out. So you'll need 2 pairs of these. I have put some on the website, and they are 2 pairs are included in the kits anyway. So they are actually £6. The other thing is there is a discount code for the kits if you would like one. But these, they're very hard to get hold of. Jack kindly got hold of these for me. But if you look at the prices where you do see them, you're talking of £10 each. Now, they are slightly different. They've got screw fastenings rather than the leg. So I know they are a more expensive type, but even so, at £10 for an individual one, it makes these a really reasonable price to be able to do the project we're doing. Okay, so where shall we start first? Let's start with the handle. So this is the right side of my fabric, and we would always fuse our bag handle onto the wrong side. Okay, and what we're going to do is what I also do on other projects, so that we don't have any decaville in the seams, we're going to stitch around the edge of the bag handle. So the first thing we're going to do is put our fabrics right sides together, and when you fuse your handle onto the canvas, you do need to make sure that there's at least 1/4 of an inch. I put ½ an inch for safety, but you need excess fabric around the edge because we're going to stitch first and cut second. So let's just make sure. And also I like to put a pin around about here to hold our layers together whilst we stitch. So, okay, evening Patsy. Right, so the only place we are going to stitch, we're not stitching here. We are stitching purely around the curve. So I have at least put a full bobbin in so we don't run out of thread. And when I start off right at this edge part, I am going to reverse. Let's see if I can put that just there and still see it. I'm going to just reverse just to hold that nice and securely. And then I'm going to go quite slowly, and I'm going to move my fabric because I do not want to stitch onto the decaville. I purely want to stitch on the canvas layers. So we're going right around the outside, and we are stitching. Now you would have a thread that coordinates with your fabrics, rather than what I'm doing now. I'm just using a grey. It doesn't actually matter on this occasion, but when it comes to the top stitching, which I will show you where we need to top stitch, but I'm not actually going to do that tonight because I haven't got any rust thread to hand, and I think it would look much better to have a coordinating thread for our top stitching. No, it's £6 for 2 pairs, Nikki. Whoops. £6 for 2 pairs, so it makes it £3 per pair. I've done there's a picture of 1 pair because I forgot it was going to be in 2. So 1 pair is a back and a front, and the listing will say it's for 2 pairs. Okay, so I've stitched all the way from here, all the way around here to there. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this. Now, I am going to use a rotary cutter because we are, for part of it, going to, trim with scissors. So let me just find, I found 3 pairs of scissors in the garage as well. Okay, so here we are. I have to put it on sideways like that. So I'm going to trim away the excess here, but I'm going to leave 1/4 inch for my seam allowance. So I've got 1/4 inch line just there. So we are going across there. I haven't gone the whole way because I don't think that's it. And then I'm going to go 1/4 inch to the side of this short edge here. So I can go up there, and then also we'll go here as well. So we like our 1/4 inches because, oh no, Trisha, you should have taken the pin out. Oh my goodness. I've got one of my special, I think we're working for the time being. I hope I didn't. Now, what do I say? I say to you, pins and rotary cutters do not go together. So take your pins out before you do any cutting. Is what I say there. Okay, so I've cut those. Okay. So as you can see, where the areas are straight, we have got the 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to, now I am going to leave 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around here because it is necessary. I think if it were cotton fabric, which is a tighter weave than canvas, I would probably go down to my 1/8 of an inch, which is what I usually say, around curves. Hello, Patricia. But what we're going to do is cut this around, and then, there we go. I'm going to clip into all of this curve. So you can use pinking shears if you want to, but if you clip into the curve about every 1/4 inch, you'll get a lovely curve to the top of your handle. So it is a case of going the whole way round on this occasion because there's very little apart from this top edge. So I'm not going to go along here because that's straight, but I am going to start at the other end of that top edge because it needs to be clipped into to get a nice curve, as I say. Right, and especially into this inverted curve, like so. So let's go in there. And you'll notice if you turn it through, having forgotten to clip, you'll notice lots of puckers and it doesn't sit very well at all. Now, before I go any further, I'm also going to cut this out as well. So I'm just going to clip in there and clip to the sides. And even if you're not very careful around here, you can get away with a little bit, cutting a little bit wider than this actual curve oval is. Now, I did have, there we are, I did have some small, these were quite good, which I came across as well. Some little, if you've got smaller scissors, it will go in. I mean, these actually are snips. They're not for cutting fabric. So it is a case of, where are we, just clipping. or no. They're for snipping thread. They're not really for cutting fabric. So let's persevere, Trisha. Let's put our scissors underneath and go around here. Now do this before you turn it through, because it will be a lot harder to cut the oval out in the right place. As it stands, the stitching is holding the fabric together and it is perfect. So you don't, where you can, you don't want to have any little bits of thread or wadding, but the width of the handle means that it is very forgiving for your edges. Okay, so there we are. We've got cut out through both layers. So once we've done that, and once we have clipped all the way around that edge, we can now turn it to the right side. So so I would hold onto the decaville and push the other side. So push around that edge and into that first curve, or the curve of the top of the handle, and then just push that through. And I can see can you see it's all stayed with the fabric? It hasn't peeled away. And then you can also see what a lovely smooth curve that is there. So I am going to put my little brush in here just to push that around like so. There we go. And then also on this side, just push that up as well. Okay. And then when you flatten it down, I'm going to press it, but you need that seam to be right on the very edge. Now you have got fusible fleece there, so it does try and push it away. But what you want, just roll it on your thing, you want those ovals to line up exactly. Okay, so if you need to pull it a little bit, so I can see just there, that's just pulled to the front, but just push that down so that, as I say, those ovals line up again. And you'll also see that that straight edge lines up as well. So I'm just going to pop my iron on just to give that a little press first of all. Now what you'll notice is this end is open. We need that to be open, okay? And this end is open too. So let me just see. I'm not going to bring the iron in, but I'm just going to give that a little steam just to make that nice. There we are. And there we are. Now what I would, on the other one, pull that up a bit. Now be careful when you're ironing, because obviously part of it is not attached. Oh, I've shrunk that back a little bit, or there we are. There we are. But as I say, the actual, oh yes, I must have, there we are. The actual clips, or you see how I've ironed onto that a little bit, but these here are very forgiving. They've got about probably ½ an inch width there, so it is going to cover up quite a bit on the inside there. I'm going to put that on last of all, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that aside now, so the top stitching will be done at the very end. And what it will look like, I've done this one already, but it's better to put this on at the very end. So that is a completed one. Oh, I did, Juliet. I was on from about 15:15 because I'd forgotten to sew along. Okay, hi Juliet. Right, there we are. So that is what it's going to look like once we get it all together. So this one is not, we haven't got our metal handle in yet, but we're going to set that aside and we're going to do, we're going to use it actually. We're going to do this now. So the first thing we're going to do is, what shall we do? I know, I put the lining on first previously, but no, that's what we'll do. that's what we'll do. We'll put the lining on first. So we're going to do the same with both of them. So with your little handle, let's just push that down a little bit more. There we are. That is going to be inside those legs. So this is the outside. So on the inside, we're going to have our lining. There is our lining piece. Okay. And I've marked out my corners. And actually, just so that I remember, this is the new way that I saw on a little video of either a Japanese or a Chinese lady doing this. You couldn't really see. It might have been a man for all I know, because I only think you saw the sewing machine. So these were 1 inch squares, which I've drawn into each corner. And it's along, well, it doesn't matter. It's along the long edge rather than there we are. Okay, so I've got my 2 corners cut out. So as I say, so this is going to be the inside of my bag, because these little legs are on this side. So we're going to put this right side together with the top. Okay, so what we'll need to do is push this other piece away. So we're going to push that out of the way under there, and I'm just going to line that up, and I might just put a binding clip just there to hold it, and that piece should match along there as it is, totally the same length. So I'm just going to pop that under the machine, and again I am going to reverse when I start and finish, just to, that's it, I'm going to have about a 2.5 stitch length, and just making sure the other side, so this is just one side of our bag handle. So we've got to do it for both of them. Okay, so as you see there's the 2, we've got one side of the bag handle and the other side. Doesn't matter really which side whether the fleece is on there or the decaville, but as long as you've got the little legs on the inside. So I'm going to do exactly the same. Oh, I've forgotten on here what the other thing I needed to do. Oops, here we go. Around here, what we want to do is stitch. So just around here, probably 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I got one step ahead there without thinking. Okay, so that's why we need to press to make sure the oval lines up. So I'm putting that, making sure that's lower edge is together. Okay, and I'm going to stitch, as I say, about, you can go a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. And as I keep saying about how forgiving the handlers are, because they are a little bit wider. Just looking to see the other side there. Yeah, that's okay. So we're going to go around here, because those handles are going to cover the stitching. So, it's not a very good oval that I'm doing, but it is just holding the fabrics together whilst we complete the rest of it. And it may be that we even need to cut a little bit of it away. So let's just have, I can just trim that little bit. It's not going to, as long as you're not cutting 1/2 inch away, we're going to be absolutely fine. So that was what I forgot. When we've done the handle, just stitch around there to hold the layers together. So again, I haven't put the bag handle in there yet, because I was going to leave that till the end. So we can make sure we put the bag handle in the right way once we've got the lining on here. So let's do the same. This is going to be my lining. So you can have a look to see which side you feel is best for you. Okay, so right sides together with this part. So let's just, I think I've done it the opposite way around this time, because I think I had the decaville there last time, but that doesn't matter at all. So pop that, oh, thought I heard a bird. Pop that together, and perhaps it's easier to flip this out of the way so that we can stitch. Not that you'll be able to see now. So this is the decaville part. Just flip that up and so that we can stitch along through the other layer and our lining. Okay, let's start to push that a little bit. Let's see if I'm lined up here. Oh, that's all right, yeah. So I have moved that just a little bit, so I'm just going to take that down. Okay, so we've got another lining piece there. So what we need to do on the other side of the handle, this piece, is this is where we need to put our outer fabric. So here is our outer fabric, which is going to go there. So the outer fabric is going on this flappy piece. So again, flip it up so it's right sides together. But first thing we're going to do is find the center point. So let's just fold that in half and we'll put a pin in there to mark the center point. Now I would suggest with a ruler, I'm going to look along here, you measure, this should be 11.5, which it is. So I'm going to put a pin, where's my pin gone? There it is. I'm going to put a pin at 5 3/4, which is here, just through that one side. Okay, so there is my pin for the halfway point here. Here is my pin for the halfway point of the fabric. And I'm just going to line them up like that and pop that together. Okay, now that is actually through the decaville. So I'm going to put a clip there instead. Okay. And then we will line one end up with this end, and we're going to have a bulge in the middle on both sides of that middle point. So we can put a pin through the seam allowance there, and we can put a pin in here. We're lining up that other short, just the short edge there. Okay, so I'll put a pin there. So that's holding that. Here we have those two bulges. Now, if you want to measure, you can, but we're going to make this one lump here into two little pleats. So all I'm going to do is fold roughly the same, make a little fold there, and a little, or a pleat. So a little hump just there and a little one there. And what I'm going to do is flatten that down, as I say, to give a little pleat. So I've just folded that over to the outside, and I'm going to pull that up to the top so that lines up, and I'm going to put a clip on there. And then the other one, probably about an inch away from it, so you can put your finger in there, hold it up, pinch it together and flatten it down. So you've got another little pleat just there. So again, if you get yourself a clip, so I've got two little pleats, 1, 2. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So we've got our large bump here. I'm going to make a smaller one just there, so even to the other side of that centre. Lift it up like that, and let's just find another clip, which is just there, and I just thought, well, there's another one there, and then the rest of it, the rest of this lump, we can make another little pleat. So I'm just lining up that fabric along there, and then just fold that as I say, it's about 1 inch and folding out towards that outer edge, and we can pop a clip on there too. Okay, so I'll just show you that there. So I've just folded it outwards and outwards. This was the center one, and then fold this one to this side, and now it all matches. So we do need to, so I'm going to push this underneath, out of the way, so that I can stitch across there. So under the machine, and put that down. And again, we can do a little reverse. And I'm going to take out the clip just before I get to it. And actually, one of the things I did use is my seam ripper, just to hold that down. So if you've got an awl or a seam ripper, take the clip off, but hold it down with your seam ripper. Then you've got the straight bit in the middle, which was your center. And then take that off, seam ripper to hold it, take the next one off. Whoops, just got a bit of thread there. And seam ripper to hold that down. And then that lines up at the side. Okay. And when we get to the side, just reverse there. Okay. So there is my front, and then swivel it round, and there is my lining. Okay, so what we're going to do now is the same with the other one. So this one, as I say, I've just put the lining on there already. So let's just have a shufty again, just to find the center here. So 11.5 across there. And we want about 5 3/4 here. So there is my center point of that. Then with my fabric, I can just fold. There we are. So I can fold that and put a pin at that center point just there. Like so. And then I can lay it right sides together. Line those pins up, and because on this side I have got the fusible fleece, it bends a lot easier. Just make sure I'm pulling the right pin out there. That's it. So again, we want to pin at this edge. So just line that up like so, pin through there. And then align this edge too. Okay, off the dinner. Okay, Wendy. There we are. And put a pin in there. And we'll put clips where we need to do the pleats. So the pleats, let's do it a little bit sideways on. It's easier. So just pull a little bit up like so to give me a pleat. You can put your finger under there to grab 1/2 inch or so, like that, and then we'll put a binding clip to hold it. And then the last bit, there's only 2 pleats you need to make, but you just use the amount of fabric to make it flush with your handle. Okay, so that one is there. And then this side here, again, just put your finger under there, plan it so that, or just pull it so that it's roughly the same distance from the center, and pop the clip on. And then this last piece, pull it from the edge, because we are just using the rest of the excess fabric to make a pleat just there. Now, in the instructions, I could have put measure 1 inch, measure this, measure that, but it's so much easier to just gauge, oh, there we go, gauge where it needs to be. So there again, I've got all my pleats ready in place. So let's push that backing out of the way, and we can stitch across here. So a little reverse at the beginning. I'm going to grab my seam ripper, which is there, pull that clip away. Oops, didn't want that bit of, and then pop the seam ripper down to hold the pleat. Take the other one off, hold the pleat down, take that pin away, seam ripper to hold it down, and there's my next one. So just hold that down, and that keeps it in place so that all your fabric is lined up. Okay, so we have done that. So there is our pleated front on that side. Okay, what shall we do now? Now the usual, actually I do need to cut out on here my 1-inch corners. So what I'm going to do, if I line my fabric up here, because it's having the same, so I'll line those up, and let's just cut that 1 inch out of the fabric, of the outer fabric. So I've got two the same, and then I'll line this one up. So this is rather than measuring, because I measured the other ones. So line up your fabric, the outer and the lining, and then you can use that as a template to cut out your squares. So that was on one, and then the other one is here. So let's just line that up. So line all the edges, and then you're going to get the exact 1 inch square on both pieces, lining and outer. So there we are, and just clip that and across there. So the next thing we need to do is open out. Okay, and when I say open out, even open out our handles and on both pieces, and we're going to lay the lining or the outer fabric onto the outer fabric and the lining fabric onto the lining. You can see the lining's there, you can see the outer fabric is there, and we are going to line up, most importantly, our handle. So what we can do is line that top of the handle there, and we can put a clip to hold that together, and then where the linings meet, we can line that up also and put a clip just there, and then the same on the other side. So we're just going to, whoops, let's just pull that out. It's a little bit difficult to, or there's not, let's push that out of the way here. Let's see if I can push that back a bit. There we are. Okay, so now we are lining up our lining fabrics here. So where they come together, and we'll put a binding clip just there also. Right, and then flip it round to the other side and do exactly the same there. I think actually it helps if we put one handle going one way and one the other, and then that top part there, line that up together and clip it. And similarly here, where those two line up, let's get there, and just here, these are the most important parts where the handle comes together with the lining or the outer fabric. Okay, so you can clip all the way around these edges as well if you want to, but what we're going to do, we are going to leave a gap in the lining here, but we're going to leave a large gap because we have got to move those handles through here. So I'm going to start, I'm only going to do perhaps an inch from each side and leave that very large gap. So let's see. So let's hold that together. We can put some clips along there, along this edge here. So we are going to start, as I say, just about, let's put my knee lift back in, about half an inch, not half an inch from the edge. So now I'm going to go to there. Now this is the new trick. It might be harder. I think actually it will be harder with such a small. What I was going to do, but as I say, it is very. No, I will show you another day what I was going to do. I was going to bring this edge up to it, but it's so small, it's hard to do. So we won't do that. And on the instructions, what I did the cutting of the squares afterwards. I will show you that little trick on tomorrow as well. So do as you normally do and just stop. There we are. And then cut your threads and then start on the next side. So this time we are going to go all the way up here. I'm just pulling those over a little bit so that they line up. And then as we are coming to the top here, I'm going to get my seam ripper again to hold those together. And 1/4 inch all the way. So I'll take that out and put my seam ripper to hold that together. And then again, just carry on down here. I'll put my seam ripper in there. And then line this bottom edge up here, which is where our cutout squares are. And we'll whiz down here. Okay, and cut the thread. As I say, it will be a different way of doing it tomorrow when I show you basically how it saves you pinching the fabrics and it brings them together just like that. Right, let's just hold that. Put those raw edges meeting there. Okay. And across. And reverse at the end. And then we're going to go up this side too. So, do a little reverse there. It just holds that a little bit better as we're using canvas. Okay. So I'm coming up to that first clip. Take it off and hold it down. Take it off and hold it down. And simply just make sure these are in the right place. And make sure these are lined up too. We don't want a hole in our lining. There we go. And all the way down to our next cutout corner. And then just the first, as I say, inch or so. So reverse a bit there. Okay, so we've done that. So we now need to make our corners, which usually our box corners. Pop your finger in there, pull it out, flatten it together and hold those edges, and we'll put that under the machine. So reverse and reverse there. And then similarly on this side, finger in that hole, pull it apart so that you can flatten and the seams come together, and I nest those just like we do in patchwork. That's it. So let's put it that way. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it'll be worth it in the end. Okay, so round now to our outer fabric. So pull that, nest those seams. You can pop a pin on there, pop a pin, I haven't said that for a while, or a clip if you want to. Just stitch across there, and then this side as well, finger in the hole, and push those seams together so that they nest, and then again, oh, let's turn it that way. Perhaps if I worked it that way, and pop that under. I've always got my fingers pressing down on and just holding them together so that they work. Okay, so there we have a boxy thing. I haven't got any zip to think about, so I'm putting my hand in and I'm going to pull on the handles. So I've just got my handles there, and what I'm going to do is just pull that through, because as you're aware, they are quite sturdy and we do want them to come through sort of fairly easily. So let's just pull that. That's why I've left a large gap in the bottom. Okay, so let's just pull that. The handles are coming first, so pull those side bits like that. And it is easier if you haven't got the metal clasps in. That's why I'd only put one in, just to save a bit of time. But we can pull that out. We can move that down. So here is our lining. Okay. And we do need to close the gap in the lining. And we do need to, we can pull our outer fabric. I'll pull this out here because we're going to tuck the lining into it anyway. And then if you pull this one out here, it means you can check that the bag base, the box corners, are stitched and we're not missing anything there. Okay, so now that we know that is fine, what we can do is close this here. So being having fusible fleece on there, what I'm going to do is just nail press that across to the other side, because then it will fold together nicely. Okay, so it's sort of not quite as easy as if it was just layers of cotton, which our lining usually is, but I'm just going to pull that together, and then I'm going to turn this so that it matches as I go. Okay, or if you want to use binding clip to hold that, and then we're just going to stitch across that edge, just like we always do, but normally it is purely cotton fabric. So let's just get that on the edge and just reverse there. I'm going to take that off, and then I'm just turning in each edge, and it does hold really well, and then line that edge up and stitch across there. And you can stitch fairly close to the edge because you're watching that all lines up. So here at the end, just hold on to your box corner, pull that in and fold the fabric in. And then that works really pretty well. And I go a little bit further down the opening so that is all nicely, where's my little clippers? So we can trim that thread off there and trim that little bit there. And again, by all means, check that you've caught all of that. So that's all nicely. A little bit of thread there, get rid of that. And then we can push this into the bag. So in between the handles, Okay, so push those handles back, and there we go. And then I'm going to put my hands into the bottom to push into those lining corners. Now there is more fabric here than lining, but it does make it look really, really well made. Okay, so we have, there's our handle, push through at both sides, they match really nicely. So the last little bit to show you is how to attach the handle. Right, so we've got one there already. So this handle here, so if you remember what I was saying, you've got one handle piece with legs, and we want those legs, so we want those to go on the outside and the legs come up on the inside for this to go on top, and then the legs will splay back like there. So what I would do is gauge that fits okay around here. So I'm just running my nails into that recess. Can you see? And I can see that fits pretty well. I'm just going to see if we can come in a little bit closer. There we are, that's it. So now that I know, so I'd run my nail around there and all of the fabric is going onto, or is being pushed down here. So what I'm going to do now, if you have glue, so this is any fabric glue. This happens to be the first one I came across, and I'm actually going to put some glue into that recess on the metal. Okay, so let's just go all the way around here, sort of put fairly ample amount on that little recess there. And I would give it 20 or 30 seconds just to dry a little bit. Okay, so let's just screw that up. So you can see there, I put glue all on the inside, and this is the part with legs. Okay, I'll give it a little, such incredible sewing. Oh, Vanessa, you're so kind. Okay, so that started, I'd perhaps leave it slightly longer, perhaps another 10 seconds or so, but I'm now going to slide that over so I can see where my legs are. There they are, I can see where my legs are. And then just push the fabric down. So you could use, what else did I use? Where did I do it? So just push that in. I wonder if that will do. Oh yeah, there. So I've got the end of a crochet hook. Just push that down so that the fabric touches the glue and pulls that in. Can you see? So I'm just pressing that down just so the fabric is touching the glue. And what you want to see, if you can make sure that there's no fraying that is coming over that silver part there. There we are, is that better? Right, just push that in. It won't dry immediately, but you'll notice as soon as it starts to grab, oh, I should have used that, shouldn't I? So when it starts to grab, it's much better using the metal end. Okay, so it's just, you don't have to, but I just think it's a bit belt and braces, like with purse clasps. I like to put a little bit of glue in them because it just keeps it even more secure. Okay, so I've just pushed that around, and then I'm going to take the other part and put that, that's it, let's just push that in just a tiny bit, because those legs are coming on the inside, and that just fits over like that. And just make sure the legs will then, there's a little recess there, just make sure the legs are in line with that. And I'm just going to pull that just a little bit. And, oh, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just pushing that over. So this is a a soft plastic handle, which I'm pushing that over, and then you clasp that down. The metal inside that edge fits on top of the other, and I'm just going to press that down just like you do with magnetic clasps. Okay, let's just press that one down a little bit more, and you can't see any bits of thread. Look, you can see some thread there, but the clasp is nicely in place. Now the only thing, as I say, I would need to do, although it doesn't actually look so, I would top stitch all the way around here. So I have, with this one, I've top stitched all the way around, and you can do it all in one movement. And I would actually put it on your sewing machine like that and stitch that way. And then you just go all the way around and around here and around to the other side. But as I say, this does look pretty neat without any top stitching. So it is entirely up to you. Perhaps give that a little press because I can see where I folded it back. But looks pretty neat, don't you think? Okay, I'm going to turn. Oh yes, we haven't done too badly at all. Usually it's about an hour and a half for a bag making demo, and we've done pretty well. Okay, let's just see. I'm holding that, it's a bit close up, isn't it? Let's just bring that in just a little bit. There we are. So, oh, me. Don't like to see too much of me, but unfortunately, it has to be done. Okay, there we go. We're back again. So, number 1 and number 2. As I say, this is where you could stitch around there, but it looks quite neat without stitching. And actually, it doesn't take that long to do. The other thing I was thinking about, yes, this bag takes 2 pairs of the bag hardware, but what you could do, and I was thinking about this, is, well, I'll think of another bag. I thought you could use one on a bag flap and use it as the focal point for the closure to come through. I'll think a little bit more about that. But yes, there they are. So as simple. I'm sorry I couldn't show you the new method with the box bottoms, but as I say, it was because my little hole on my square cutouts were only 1 inch square, and really it would have been better to do it on a 1.5 or 2. But I'll show you that another day. But it was really good. I thought that is clever, and it would make life easier. Okay. So, as I say, I have done a couple of kits. I will take a picture of this one here because there's just a piece of fabric sitting there. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. It looks like a little girl's dress, doesn't it? It's a pinafore or a sleeveless dress here. So the arms come out here, and there it is pleated on the front. Oh, thank you, everybody. I'm glad you like it. But yes, so there are kits on the website. There is a discount code, so don't forget to use that if you would like one. And there's just the two colourways. Okay, so I think what I will do, I will have to upload it to YouTube, otherwise it will disappear. And from there, I shall have to edit the beginning of it so we don't hear all about Peugeot cars. So hopefully when I see you tomorrow evening, I'll have good news. Let's keep your fingers crossed. Jack, don't order a kit, thank you. No, please don't. Send me an email if you're still there, Jack. I think you are. Send me an email, please, and I will email you. So don't order off the website, please. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm going to love you and leave you. Tomorrow night I will be on No, shall I start a bit earlier? No, I will be on time. I'll be at 6:30, but I will do the giveaway first of all. 6:30 giveaway, followed by the wonky log cabin block. And then on Friday, it will be week 5 of the mystery quilt. Okay. So, thanks for joining me tonight. Sorry about the muddle, but I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye for now.